Hey there, my name is Ash Shukla, and I'd like to say welcome to Financial Chakras Abundance Through Alignment podcast. And in this podcast today, we have a guest here, and she is an amazing person to help you set boundaries. Because many times, as you know, we don't know how to set boundaries. We don't know how to say no, and we don't know how to say yes, or we don't know how to be firm about our decisions that we make, or what we want to have enter into our life and what we don't. And that's why I have brought here, Arlene Miller is here to help us out with understanding how to set boundaries. And also, as a bonus, we're going to talk about crystals a little bit today, and we're going to have some fun with that. Okay, so here we go. First of all, I want to say, so help me welcome Arlene, my friend Arlene. Welcome, welcome, welcome to my podcast. I appreciate you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm really grateful to be here. This sounds like a fun thing to talk about.
Absolutely, my friend. So let's talk about, I know, so first let us know, where you're from and what are some of the things what is your passion in life?
Well, I live right now in Longmont, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver. And right now, I'm really passionate about helping people to be more grounded, fully present, to heal, and to help them with their boundary skills and their communication skills, um, just so that they can be like not like waffling off and not really like bounced around by all the energies on the planet right now. It can be really heavy. There's a lot of divisiveness, there's a lot of separation energy. So as a coach, as a mentor, I'm still licensed as an attorney. I did practice for many years. So as a person who knows how to work with people, work with groups, be a leader, I really love to help people lead themselves, and I'm really passionate about that.
Yeah. So what were you doing before you came into this kind of work?
Well, when I was 15, I decided that I was going to become an attorney. So I went to college. I got a political science degree. I went to law school in Kentucky, where I was born and raised. And I've owned two law firms, one in Cleveland. I moved there, which is about 6 hours north of Kentucky, where I grew up. My ex and I moved up there. And so I had my own business there. After 3 years, I started my own solo practice. I did divorce and child custody work for about 12 years, and then I went into commercial law. And when my son, oh yeah, I got pregnant when I opened my business, so I learned how to balance being a parent and being a businesswoman. And when my son was 9, we sold the business, and I moved to Longmont, Colorado, across the country, and uh, bought into a partnership that was doing commercial law. So I've had a wide, varied thing of what I'm interested in, and I'm feel like a perpetual learner. So while I was a partner in the law firm, I got a diploma in transformational holistic counseling, a diploma in coaching and mentoring, and certification as a meditation facilitator. At first, primarily because I just felt as an attorney it would help me chill out because it's a really a stressful profession. And also that it really taught me how to hold space, hold presence, and to actively listen to other people. And when you do that, it's really a very healing thing for them, and it helps to settle cases, have a better relationship with the people around you. And then I just sort of got burnt out in the law and opened up my own company, Jewel Consultancy, which does the coaching and the mentoring and the speaking and the presenting.
Okay, that's great, my friend. So I'm glad to hear that, right? So I want to find out a little bit about, so when you were an attorney, right? So tell me the life in the day of attorney, like, what is it like, throughout the day, going through an attorney, like being an attorney, right? So because I'm going to assume that you set a lot of boundaries in that area of life, right? So I would like to find out a little bit more about, what kind of boundaries, and specifically what was the life in a day of attorney.
Well, I had to learn how to set boundaries because I started practicing law at 25 and really didn't know anything about setting clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries. But since I opened my own practice and I was primarily a domestic relations lawyer, so people were coming to me for divorce, for child custody, for visitation, or just that they and their partner were trying to resolve everything without having to go to trial. you really had to have clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries with your client and with the other attorney and with the partner, their partner, whoever that was. And it was a learning process because I had never experienced divorce in my family. My parents were together for a very long time. I had a very normal childhood in the suburbs. And it really took a while to realize that some people played dirty, that were attorneys, and some clients weren't truthful with you. And so it was really important to say, you know, this is what I'm going to let into my energy field, and this is what's not appropriate. And to also know, and I guess the other way that I learned to practice boundaries is that I found that a lot of attorneys did not tell their clients like the strengths and the weaknesses of their case. And I think that was a real mistake. So a part of setting boundaries was explaining what the weaknesses of their case were and what the strengths were to maybe help them to resolve things without going to trial when that really might not be in their best interest. It might just be spending a whole lot of money for not much better of a result than if they settled. So that's some of the ways that I started practicing boundaries when I was a young attorney.
Wow. So like when you talk about boundaries, right? So like right from the beginning, since you were 15, you said, right? You want to be an attorney. How did you know at such a young age that you just wanted to be an attorney?
I don't have any like amazing story other than I just felt this really strong intuition that I was supposed to go to law school and be an attorney. And I remember being 15 and making an announcement to my parents. I'd always been pretty good in school. Um, there were no attorneys in my family. I think my father had a cousin, like third or fourth cousin, who was an attorney, and we knew him. We'd see him like maybe once a year, but no one in the immediate group. And I just had this inspiration that this is what I was supposed to do.
Okay, I love that very very much, right? So from that being said, right? So at 15, right, you set a hard boundary and you told your parents that I'm going to do this. In your line of work, like how many times, especially like, did you find that a lot of men and women who are getting divorced, right? They just were not able to state clearly what they really wanted. Number one, right? Like just say so like they haven't learned how to say no or how to say yes to something. And what do you find even in today's work? So let's elaborate on that for a minute.
Well, a lot of people who came to me for, a divorce, some of them wanted to work things out and some of them didn't. And so I guess where I had to talk to them about boundaries oftentimes was when they had children,
Mm,
because there were parents that the other partner, the spouse, was a great parent until they're getting a divorce. And people would try to put their children between them and their soon to be ex partner. And I
mm,
really had to have really strong boundaries with that and say, look, the court is not going to help you if you can't work things out. There are people that go back to court lots of times to change the visitation or change how you're working things out with the kids. They're not equipped to do so. If you want to have things flow for your children, you need to, if possible, unless the other person, had drugs or alcohol or some other really deep problem, most people they just felt that their partner was a jerk now. So that you have to be really clear with them that if they don't set those boundaries with their partner and work something out that's in the best interest of their kids, it's going to be an ongoing battle that's going to cost them a lot of money and not turn out much better because the court is not equipped to make those kind of decisions. Most parents are able to do so. If they're not, and there's alcohol or drugs or, something else involved in, I was appointed often to be like a guardian ad litem appointed by the court to represent the children. That's the last resort. You don't want to have to go that way. And so you have to find a way, if at all possible, to work out that schedule, whatever's going to be in the best interest of your kids.
yeah. So what you're really saying is that, so how often people didn't understand that piece when they came to you for this particular type of advice, specifically for divorce. How often you found that they just never understood that point, that they need to set proper boundaries in order for them to make sure the children are okay, so to speak.
I think people have an idea, but they just are so kind of discombobulated and upset. Divorce is a very, very stressful thing to go through.
Right.
You know, most people get married thinking it's going to be happily ever after, and then when it falls apart, it's one of the most stressful things you can go through in your life. So they're not always thinking clearly. They're not always thinking, in a way that they normally would because they're stressed out. They're worried about money, they're worried about where I'm going to live, they're worried about taking care of the kids, they're worrying about maybe some of the shenanigans of the other person that they were married to. So a lot of it is active listening, listening to them and giving them a place to ventilate without being a counselor, and then just having the ability to share with them, well, this is the law, and what can you do to work within these boundaries to take the best care of your kids. And most people would work it out, some people wouldn't. And they might see later on, well, I really should have listened to Arlene because I've spent a lot of money going to court. And that sometimes they get sent to counseling or to some sort of um, group parenting sessions where they would give them the same sort of advice and help them to see their way through where to from here. So yeah, it wasn't an easy thing to do, and it wasn't an easy pill for people to swallow because change can be really difficult for people.
Mhm.
So you just really do the best that you can. And I think remain really compassionate with the people that you're working for because they're stressed. They're really
Yeah, they're stressed.
stressed.
They're really stressed. So when it comes to, like, say, for instance, shared responsibility. So basically, what you're saying is when people are coming to you, either they set the boundaries themselves and be firm, and they can give it a direction energetically. They can give it a direction as to where that's going to land, right? Versus, if they don't set that direction in terms of which direction their family is going to go, then universe already has boundaries that it has set up. In case this doesn't work out, then this thing is going to happen. In this case, it could be children, are out of place, or whatever the stressfulness that they go through even further. So basically, by not setting boundaries, would you say they go through more stress than not?
Well, they're setting their own boundaries, but they're
Hmm.
not always boundaries from a space of love.
Yes.
So the people that come to me and the parties on the other side, they're setting what their clear, strong boundaries are, what their goals are
Yeah.
to have happen for their children, for the finances, for the division of property, in the context of this divorce. Those are their boundaries, but they're not always realistic. And
Yeah.
they're sometimes really cloudy because of all the emotional turmoil that they're going through and what their children are going through if they have children.
Yeah.
So I really feel like, and I think we were using some of these words before we got on the call, it's about, being kind and compassionate while explaining what the law is and how the courts are not equipped if we're talking about, visitation and custody and how to balance things out for the kids.
Hmm.
They're not really equipped to do all that. It works much better if the parents can work it out.
Yeah, and so now let's say that if you were to take a look at what you were teaching them or how you help them in terms of creating boundaries, this lesson can be applied pretty much in anything, right? So when you, those of you who are listening, I want you to know that I'm conversating, with Arlene, because I want to make sure that you understand that there are boundaries no matter where you go. She set a boundary. She said, "Hey, you know what?" So energetically, using her chakras, like she literally came forth and said, "Hey, I am going to do this." She set the ground rules, right? By putting up that ground rule, by setting that boundary with her parents, and said, by claiming that. And many times, think about how many times you miss claiming your what I call your energetic centers, and how, when was the last time you sat down at total clarity. And that's what I love about this, Harleen, because at a young age you claim that, and then you carried that forward into owning a firm and working with a firm, and not only that, but being extremely successful. So I congratulate you on that. But more importantly, you work with people to really help them set boundaries. So now, that being said, when you like this content, by the way, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to what we are doing here. All right. So I would really, really appreciate you. Just go here at the bottom and do so. I would appreciate that. So that being said, Arlene, now let's shift gear for a second, right? So you're talking about boundaries, and you said that you can help people set boundaries. So give me some, what is the number one rule? Let's take like three rules that we can teach them here. And what are the, like, what's the number one rule you taught parents on how to set boundaries?
Well, I didn't teach this back then because I really wasn't savvy with all of this. I didn't have the language for it. But if I was to go back and be a divorce attorney now,
Okay. Yes.
the number one thing that I would teach them is that energetically we don't set our boundaries by how we are. Because if we're really upset or we're really happy or joyful, we can have really open boundaries. If we're really happy, if we could be really upset, we could be really closed and contracted. We set our boundaries by how the other person is. Are they coming from a place of love and kindness and compassion, or are they projecting and being in a place that is just not okay? So we set our boundaries. How strong we set our boundaries are based upon how the other person or the other group is. Because otherwise, we could, if we were coming from a really good place, maybe we were really happy we were going through a divorce and we already had someone else we were dating and the kids were doing really good and we could just see on the other side how this was going to be for the best, the highest good of all concerned. If we went into a negotiation with our soon to be ex-partner and their attorney to work things out and we were all open because we're so happy, um, we could get really whammied by the other attorney's energy and our soon to be ex partner because
Yeah.
maybe they're really upset or they're really in a tense place. So the first thing, looking back, because I really didn't have that, when I was that young, I hadn't learned those lessons yet. I would teach them you need to set your boundaries by how the other person is, not by how you feel. And so you can just visualize it being a lot tougher, like golden bubble or protection or wall around you. If you when you're walking into a room with somebody that you're not sure, and then you can always loosen it up if you can tell that they're in a place where you can be a little bit more receptive to them.
Yeah, but like you're saying that I really like the idea of what you're saying. So, but how does somebody? Because many people don't know how the other person is, or they're trying to, even though they've been married for a long time, they really don't know. So, or if they're a business partner, they don't know, or maybe you have some other type of relationship, or maybe you are becoming a client of somebody, or maybe you are a coach or a consultant, and you really are trying to set boundaries with your clients. So the question is, how do you really get to know the other person?
Well, the way that you get to know other people, I mean, and first of all, if you're just not sure, just visualize a really strong boundary around you. You can always loosen it up later, but just one where any energy that's not about love is just bouncing back to them, and just a really strong
Okay.
bubble, golden bubble of protection with like big walls, like a moat
Big
or
boss.
something.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so if you don't know and you're not sure, set strong boundaries. And the best way to get to know somebody, if you really want to know what kind of boundaries to have with them, is active listening. And I didn't really understand that until I got my diploma in coaching and mentoring because I wasn't taught in law school. I was taught to go forth and win. And so active listening is where you ask an open question. An open question is something that there's not a yes or no answer, and you actually listen to what the other person is saying. You're not thinking about what you're going to say back or how you're going to refute them. You just have this genuine curiosity and sense of wonder about what you're asking about. And when you can hold this kind of presence for somebody, and really listen and learn and not think about how you're going to one up them or what you're going to say, because I'm not talking about going into a courtroom like this when it's an actual adversarial situation. I'm talking about if you're trying to work out something or settle something. When you give a person that space and you're not thinking about what you're going to say or how you're going to refute them or how you're going to one up them or how they're wrong, and you're just curious and you're asking open questions and you're listening or maybe making a comment and seeing how they respond to it, they're going to feel heard and understood,
Mm.
because it's a rare thing for someone to give that to somebody else. And
Right.
if someone else feels heard and understood with you while you're still having your strong, clear, and appropriate boundaries, it's a lot easier to know where they're coming from, see what common ground you can have to work something out.
Right. And I love that the thought process of what you're saying is, so in order for you to set the boundaries, first you have to understand their boundaries and understand where they're coming from, so that you can create that ultimate middle ground that's necessary, in order for you to move the ball forward to the next step. Is, which I actually absolutely love, because God gave us 2 ears and one mouth, and we should use it appropriately, right? uh in that context. So I think that's a great advice for somebody who is really going through or maybe it's a business deal, or maybe it's a partnership, or maybe it's you're trying to acquire a customer, or you're becoming a customer of the a person who is gonna about acquire you as a client. In that case, I mean, you want to understand which way the tide is turning and which way the role is being played, right? Because sometimes we are very gullible people, and as in many times we make decisions from heart, and we just say yes to things when we shouldn't say yes to things. Maybe there's a way
Right.
to just shut it down, because I find, at least Arlene, many times people end up doing that. A lot of my clients end up doing that, right? So then what ends up happening is you don't set that boundary. Like as a client, what it is that you want. Are you satisfied with the client conversation that you're having with somebody? And when you are not clear on that, right, and you still walk into it, you intuitively that's not the right thing for you, but you end up making a decision. So have you ever had that, like when that happened and then somebody gets upset, right? Obviously, the and then you feel regret and a remorse, and you get angry and frustration and all that stuff, right? So do you find that to be true,
Well,
Ali?
I want to step back first and share something.
Yeah.
People don't always say what they mean. People don't always tell the truth. And if they
Great.
tell you that this is my boundary and bottom line, and you're in some sort of negotiation with them, chances are it's not the truth. Chances are there's
Mm.
something else that might be the bottom line. So, and I agree with what you're saying. You just don't always take people at what they say. But when you ask open questions, what's important to you? Where would you like to be by the end of this? What are your reasons for that? Is there any room for negotiation? Or just whatever questions come up as you're talking with them. It's important not to be gullible, because
Yeah.
most people don't tell the truth,
Right.
unfortunately. So we
Yeah.
so we have to really learn how to watch body language and watch their eyes and their mouth, and how they're interacting with you. Is their body language open? Is it closed? Or
Mm.
what is their expression on their face? So there's a lot more that goes on when you're working to have an agreement with someone or have a new client or sell something than just boundaries. Boundaries is one part of a whole big picture.
Yeah, I like that very much. And I think so. What you're saying is open up a wide door, when you are really, taking in something from them. When you're asking a question, open up a wide-ended, like think of it like a big doors that are being opened up, like what do you call 18th century or 16th century, those big, palace doors. Open them up, right, in order for you to listen. And at the same time, on the back end, make sure that when you are speaking, make sure you also feel heard, and it's a two-way street on both ends, and that's how you come to a grounding, correct, like to a
And
decision.
also if you're having a negotiation with someone, you just don't walk in without all the facts and figures and knowing what your goals are. You do an investigation and you talk to the right people, and maybe you get some mentoring or some advice, and you come in prepared. So it's not just like, oh, I have my boundaries, it's going to be fine. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that go into conversations.
Yeah, so the second thing is to be flexible in conversations versus being rigid, right? So you may have your boundaries, but that doesn't mean you say, okay, this is it. and you put up a brick wall versus a nice golden boundary with a little door open, and they can walk in and give you some input or thought processes in order for you to make it work. And so
Right.
but so when you found this, and when people work things out on average, right? um the feeling wise, obviously they were happy, right? And what did you find overall outcome when this was going on with you, when you were as an attorney, but even as a coach, right? What are you finding?
Um, well, I guess I don't h- make I don't have my how I feel about myself dependent upon what other people are going through in the moment. And I think that it's really important for other people to work with that as well.
Yeah.
Because maybe you have to take your partner back to court for an increase in child support for some
Yes.
reason, and they're not going to be happy. They might
No.
be projecting. The other attorney might be nasty. And the thing is that you've done all the facts and figures of what the law says in your
Mm.
state with your attorney or whatever, and you know what the outcome is within a couple $100s of what you can get per month to take care of a kid, because maybe circumstances have changed. We can't base how we feel in talking to someone and working something out and having boundaries by if they have a bad hair day moment because they're
Right.
upset about something. And it's so we can't take all that personally, because all
Yeah.
it's going to do is negate our boundaries because we're being
Mhm.
impacted by their projections, their upsettedness.
Yeah.
And it's not like one of those things where it's like a clear black and white all the time. You're
Yeah.
right, we have to be flexible and adaptable. If we're in a relationship that's a good relationship and we want to stay married, we have to be flexible and adaptable with our kids and our partners and our friends. It's
Yeah.
never like my way or the highway, as a good way to negotiate and to communicate, still having those clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries, knowing what you'd like to see the outcome to be, but still being open to other possibilities.
I love that. So the would you say the second step in really setting boundaries is understanding that you love yourself and make sure that you stay in love, so you can go with love and grow with love, while you're going through whatever situation that you may be going through. Would I be
Uh,
correct in that?
yes, I agree with that 110%, because we need to have self-love and self-care. And the way I explain it to people is, if you give and give and give and give, you're going to have an empty cup, and then you're going to get angry and frustrated. You're going to lash out. You're going to feel bad about yourself, and then you're going to go over into giving from an empty cup again. So you really need to fill up your own cup with self-care and self-love. Whatever things make you feel good about yourself or you enjoy to do or make your heart sing. And from that space, you're going to have clearer, stronger boundaries, because you're going to be in a space of love, and you're going to be more able to listen and to communicate with other people, because you're in a space of love and not in a space of fear.
Yeah, and I love that very much, right? Because I believe that when you are in love, it's whenever I do my manifestations, my daily wealth manifestations and stuff like that, and when I'm doing some breakthrough exercises with clients, I find that a lot of times it comes down to whether you are a small business owner, an entrepreneur, or you are a CEO or an executive, right? Oftentimes it comes up is that like self love becomes such an important thing, and people tend to doubt, like, am I good enough, right? Like, that's a question that comes up over and over and over again in many many times. And what you're saying is, make sure that you learn how to love yourself, right? So that way, no matter what the outcome comes out to be, you become more zen, and you become more neutral and energetically. From chakra's point of view, you are truly aligned before you walk into a situation. So whatever steps you take to get aligned is important, in order for you to in order for you to really make it work. Like, I recently purchased a car about a year ago, and I was looking at like bunch of different cars, Arlene. And for me, like, I was looking at we are Toyota fans. We are Indians. We love Toyota, so like we always bought Toyotas. Right? It was which car did you buy one after the other? It was Toyota. Like, it was the whole time it was Toyota, right? So I remember, about a year ago when I was making this decision, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna drive Toyota. So I drove Toyota 4Runner, and it was around $60,000 with after everything said and done. And I'm like, okay, that's a lot of money for a car, right? But more importantly, I looked at the interior and I'm like, it just doesn't feel like $60,000 car I'm driving. So I was like really conflicted about the whole idea, because then we saw Lexus. I thought Lexus must be good, so I went and saw Lexus, and we were looking at hybrid on both hands, and the Lexus was almost 70 grand. Like after everything said, so the price went up. I'm like, I love the cars, but I really am not in love with the price or the interest rate that they are asking for. And then I ended up going to, I'm like, you know what? I've liked Tesla for a long time. I'm like, let me go drive one, right? So I drove one the first time, and when I drove the first time, I was like, okay, it's a one pedal driving. It's very difficult for me, and I was like, okay, I don't quite understand the concept, because it was a very new concept for me. So I thought that was a very interesting way to drive, and then I put it on self drive, and it just zoomed off, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's just zooming off. So and I was with my wife, right? We were both like, okay, freaking out a little bit, you know. So and then what happened, Arlene, is interesting, because I love the car. I love the model. I love the way it felt and all these things. But it just some things was off. So I went back to it, again with my wife, and I drove again. And this time I didn't take the person with me from the dealership. I said, I just want to drive with my wife. We drove that, no problem. We came back. I still wasn't satisfied. I went back to it again with my daughter. I said, okay, now this time we all three of us go, and then we all three of us went. Now, one reason it kept on drawing me back, because one, it was the price was less than both the other cars. Two, it has self-driving, which I absolutely loved. But more importantly, interest rate was so good that I just couldn't deny that, because overall, and I did the math on that. I put it on a spreadsheet. I put all the cars in spreadsheet and say which one is going to cost me the most, between gas, the maintenance, the wear and tear, and all that. At the end, Tesla came ahead. So it was a logical decision for me. So at the end, I had to literally, last time I went, the fourth time, I literally went to the dealership, and I called my wife and I said, just book the car. So like it was, so sometimes the reason I say that story is because you might be going through something. I don't care. It doesn't really matter what it is. It could be a financial situation. It could be personal situation. It could be, maybe a business deal, or maybe you're trying to become a customer of some place, and maybe you're trying to buy something, and you're trying to make the decision. At the end of the day, figure out your path is what I would say, to your, like, think about from your past what actually brought you peace. So think of a deal or something you did that brought you peace, and think of the steps you took from beginning to the end. And my friend, you will find your energetics, your chakras really be aligned, and say, that's actually the perfect move for me. And when you do that, you come into the Zen space. And that's what self love is about, is being clear on how you make the decision. Car dealerships wanted to sell me cars, so they talked about all kinds of things, right? But at the end of the day, I set my boundaries. So the reason I give you this example is because when I was doing this energetically, right, like at first when I went to Toyota dealership, I was off, Arlene, by in my like I could just feel that it's something is off, and my root chakra, my base was just not going into the Zen space. Like it just wasn't grounding like it should, you know. And my heart wasn't like talking and saying, "Oh my God, that's so amazing! Like that is such a good thing, right?" So, but when I went to Tesla, it started to like I'm like first I like the brand, but more importantly, I like the car, like the way it looked, the way it drove, like certain things, and I felt good with the pricing, and I felt good with interest rates, right? And then I saw self driving and few other things, and it just sealed the deal for me after I did the math. When I felt grounded, and when I saw what my deal is, because they all wanted to sell me the car, right? But I set my own boundaries. So Arlene, I want to ask you a question about what process you teach people. What would be the third step that you would teach people in order for them to set their own boundaries? So
Can I let me just share something really quick? What I
yeah, yeah.
really love about the process that you did was is that you were adaptable and flexible, and you were listening to your own heart's knowing and not allowing yourself to be persuaded by a car dealer, a salesperson who wanted to sell you. And I think that's great advice, because that's what I was sort of saying in the legal profession. When you have to do your homework, you have to know what the facts are, you have to know what the law is, you have to know what your goals are. Then you can go and negotiate, or whatever the situation is. You were prepared, and you also worked with people that you love, and you also were listening to your own heart's knowing, and your how it felt physically, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It was like a whole body experience. And so that's a really cool way to give an example for people um,
Yeah.
to follow.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you for that. I really appreciate that, by the way, right? Because it's important to have when you're whoever you are and listening to this podcast. I want you to know that whatever you need to move forward in your life, sometimes you feel stuck because you are not clear on what to do next, right? You're not clear on how to move forward. I would say take a pause, right? Like literally take a breather and just sit down and just take a breather. Just take a step back, right? They say go one step. What's it? Three step backwards, one step forward, or is it one step backwards, three step forward? One of the two. Okay, guys. So you tell me in the comment which one it is. I don't know which one, but English is my fourth language, and by the way, so that goes that one. Okay. But that being said, when you are making a decision, I would say, would you agree, Arlene, that they should number one step back, right? Like my rule of doing anything is just step back for a second.
Right. And with that stepping back, I sort of visualize it as like you had this big journey, and you've come to the top of this cliff, and it looks like if you take a step off the cliff, you're going to fall and do this to your death. So what people I think where people make the mistake is that they think they have to know everything.
Right.
And to take off the stress, what you can do is just take one small step forward, like off the cliff, and spirit is going to get underneath you and hold you up. See how that feels, what you've learned from it, and then take another. And that's what you were sort of doing as you were looking at all these cars and dealing with your family, and coming back to what your knowing was. You didn't make a decision right away. It was a process of taking one step, seeing how that felt, and then taking another. And that takes the stress off of us. We don't have to know what the destination is. You had this alignment. I want a really good car, and I want one that I enjoy driving, and it's a reasonable price and reasonable interest, but I also want to love it. And so we don't have to have all the answers, but we do. In order to work with spirit, we really do need to take a step, breathe, see how it feels, what it feels like now, and then take another. And we can always modify it. We can take a right turn or left turn, or whatever. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to sort of expand upon what you did with the car.
I love that. Thank you so much, Arlene, for that. Because you have to be clear on what it is that you want, right? In terms of, and sometimes you don't know until you walk in it. So I think that a lot of times people are afraid to step into something because they don't know. There's an unknown factor. Like for me, it's the first time I bought a car literally on an iPad. Like literally, I just signed the thing and they said, "Tada, you have a car!" Like that kind of thing, right? And I'm like, "Wait, where's the car?" Right? So, you know, normally you see a car, you get into a car, you go sign papers. There's a whole bunch of big line of a big amount of papers you have to sign and all these things. And not with this, it was just like literally it was like I felt like I was buying a candy or something. I just literally signed off on a thing like at a supermarket. That's what I felt. But I thought it was a beautiful experience from that point of view. So and when you're talking about when people are really going into like making sure that you're not falling off a cliff, right? You're not falling off a cliff. You're afraid to fall off a cliff, but I'm here to tell you, my friend, as you're listening to this, so how many times, Arlene, you found that courage played a role in families' lives when they were making these decisions to set boundaries?
Yeah, courage and hope are really big things to have. Hope, it's like when you feel hopeful for the future, then everything opens up, and you have a much better, a much higher vibration, a much uh better idea of what you want to do and how you want to take care of yourself. But yeah, courage is a big deal. And when we are courageous and we just say, I don't have all the answers, I'm going to take one step. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to get a good support team around me if I can. I'm going to do my research the best I can. But we have to embrace uncertainty because there's no real certainty in almost every area of our life.
Yeah, there is absolutely there is a always uncertainty, right? And I believe uncertainty. Those of you who don't know, your root chakra is where the certainty and uncertainty lives. So that's where this is their home. So in this chakra, when you are looking at your root chakra, which is at the base of your spine, it starts at the base of your spine. So right between your privates, right at the tailbone, and that's where it resides. And those of you who don't know, these are emotional hubs, right? But there is in this chakra, there's also something called safety, right? Safety, security, right? Those that kind of stuff lies in there. So if you see, sometimes you will see people, they're just workers. This is work, 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 right? And what you find, the reason why they're doing that is because they find safety there, right? There are some people who find thinking, 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 thinking. They just think a lot because they're finding safety there. They find it's safe to, in this case, in that case, if they're just thinking all the time and not doing a whole lot of work, they're finding safety in procrastinating. But they're also afraid to take the next step, and that's why they're not moving forward. And in this case, safety and uncertainty is in your root chakra, and safety, my friend, as you're listening to this, in your root chakra, right? Safety is right there, right, like literally smack right there. Now the question is, how do you make sure your base is in a zone where you feel, what, I do this, it's a reasonable chance of for me to succeed. And that's what you're looking for, is that safety net. So, Arlene, I'm going to ask you, what would be the third step that somebody can take, right, in order for them to get to this stage of really setting boundaries in the right way?
Well, I think you're talking about energetic stuff, and it's really important to be grounded and fully present.
Yeah,
And so, the way I like to explain it to people is that um, it's a kind of a different way to do it, but it's a really easy way to visualize because I'm a kind of a visual
sure.
kinesthetic person. Is that if there's like this column of light going down through, comes through my heart chakra, and it goes
Right.
down my body, down my legs, out my feet as these huge roots of light, like I'm a
Mhm.
tree, and it anchors into the heart of the planet. So that like my heart is connected to the heart of the planet. And when we're really grounded like a tree, people can't push us over. We're much more centered in our hearts. We're much more fully present. And so when we energetically do that and maybe engage in some breath work to let things go and do our homework so we have an idea of what's going on, we're going to be in a much clearer space to make a decision, to find a way to step forward because we feel really solid in who we are right here, right now.
I love that. So, being grounded becomes such an important role when you are doing this. And what I find, Arlene, is that grounding, so some people say, I don't know how to ground. Trust me, you know how to ground. If you have made one decision right in your life ever, you know how to ground, because at the end of the day, you made that decision and it was correct and it went in your favor. So that means you know the steps. The only thing I ask you, my friend, those of you who are listening, go back to your past and think about that decision that you made and it went in your favor, and write down all the steps you took. When you do that, you'll find your grounding. And like Arlene is saying, like, having a light that's coming in your life, and your feet are firmly grounded on the in the ground, and you are really letting that light guide you through in the next step. So, Arlene, would you like to do a quick exercise with me? Like, maybe you can help me, and maybe you can help the people, right, really get grounded. Shall we do that?
Yeah, sure. You want me to walk you through it?
Absolutely. Give me 1 second. I'll give us some ambient to work with here. Okay, hang on one
Okay, great.
second. Okay. So that being said, um, Okay, so that being said, let's talk through while I'm pulling this up for us. Okay, um, so when you say, Arlene, what in what circumstances people do need to really get grounded in order for them to move forward.
I feel like, well, I feel that every morning I walk through like an energetic clearing and cleansing and grounding. I don't think we should wait to where we need to make a decision. It should be more of a part of who we are and how we're experiencing life. And it's going to feel a lot easier if we're like fully present in the body, like the soul spirit is flowing through us, anchoring to the heart of the planet, and we're putting up those that golden bubble of protection, and we're breathing and we're being fully present. So in other words, I feel like we need to be practicing this all the time, so it's not, we're not coming up some big decision we're trying to figure out how to ground. It's just something that we're learning and we're practicing and we're playing with all the time to be in our bodies here now.
And I absolutely love that, right? Because at the end of the day, we can make a decision. So if you don't have to wait to get grounded, is what you're saying. Many times people wait, and then when is a good time for me to get grounded? Well, any time is a good time for you to get grounded. Okay, it's not one time or the other. Like right, right now, I just picked out of the blue and said, hey, let's do a meditation real quick, right? Because I think it'll be kind of cool for you guys. And that was just a spur of the moment. It was not, you know, there was no conversation about this. Am I right, Arlene? We didn't talk about this at all.
No, we didn't, and I love to do this kind of stuff, so I'm thrilled that
You
you're
know, so
asking me.
it's a good way to do things. You never know when something's gonna come in handy, and I think that people miss sometimes. Grounding also means being spontaneous, because at the end of the day, I'm doing this podcast too for you guys, those of you who subscribe and like and comment and share. Like, I'm doing for you guys and your families that you are really looking to make impact on, right? So that being said, I'm going to share my sound real quick. Okay, so that way
Okay.
we have it. So give me 1 second. It's going to take 2 steps for me to do this. Okay, okay, here we go. Hang on. All right. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna play that music for us. All right. You ready?
I'm
No.
ready. So is 4 or 5 minutes okay? Is that an okay
Oh,
time
it's
that you've
perfectly timed. Yes, yeah, absolutely, my friend. Are you kidding? You can take all the time you want.
Okay, great.
You're giving us a gift.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay, so everyone that's listening, why don't you just seat yourself so you have your spine is straight and your feet are flat on the floor and your legs are not crossed and you can close your eyes. And let's just take a deep breath and get fully present. So we're just going to breathe in through our nose, 2, 3, 4, and then breathe out through our nose, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our out breath is longer than our in breath. So just keep breathing, noticing your breath, breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose, and the out breath is longer. And as you're breathing in this way, just listen to my voice for a moment, because this kind of breath work takes you out of fight or flight into rest and relax mode. And as you're continuing to breathe this way, or just return to whatever is comfortable breathing for you, just visualize that you're sitting within this huge golden bubble of protection. And this golden bubble of protection is your personal sanctuary, your sacred space. And we're going to call forth the light and the love of Source to flood our golden bubble of protection. And we're only open to unconditional love and higher. And we also feel this column of light coming down around our bodies and fields and anchoring into the heart of the planet. And it's flooded with this light and this love. And from our heart chakra in the middle of our chest, we feel this column of light going down our body, down our legs, out our feet, as these huge roots of light anchoring straight away into the heart of the planet. And we can affirm to ourselves, I am fully present here now. I am safe here now. And as we heart connect with the planet, we feel her wrapping her loving arms around us and supporting us, held in this bountiful light and love. I feel safe here now. I am loved. And our heart energy is like this beautiful flower that's blossoming now of the light and love of Source, and it expands out and it's holding us in this golden bubble of protection. And from this space, I feel a deep sense of peace. And this peace floods my bodies and fields. And from this space, we also feel our energy flooding out the top of our head, our crown chakra, all the way up to Source. And the light and love of Source pours into this space. So no matter what's going on in our life, we are grounded. We are heart connected with the planet. And we're centered in our heart of hearts. And we're fully present here now. And we call forth the universal violet flame, this violet light, to flood our bodies and fields. So anything that we're feeling or thinking that's not about love, we can just let it go into the violet flame. And in its place, more light and more love floods in. If it's not about love, it's not about who I am. And we bring in gratitude. Thank you, truly thank you, for this protection, for this love, for this light, for this grounding. Thank you, truly thank you, for all the blessings in my life, for the people that I love and who love me, for all the bounty that I've already created. It is the foundation for the new. And from this space, I can breathe more deeply and more freely, because I know that I am truly loved. I feel the power of love, and I allow love to restore the balance. I am. And maybe just wiggle your fingers and your toes and open your eyes and come back to now and choose to walk with that gratitude in your heart.
Thank you so much for that.
You're so welcome. That was fun. I
That
never thought
was
that was going to
fun.
come out of my mouth.
Yeah, well, no, that was beautiful actually, and that was so grounding because when you did that, I felt at so like at peace, right? And as I was imagining this golden, dome around me that's protecting me, and I made it thicker and thicker, and how safe I felt in that dome. It was absolutely beautiful. So thank you for that. Because so sometimes, those of you who don't know how to get grounded, right? It's good to understand, like, you go through this video one more time and the audio one more time, and literally just get into the zen zone, right? So that way you have it. And those of you who are listening to me on a podcast channels, right? It's an audio version, and you want to find a video version of this, you'll find a video version of this on my YouTube channel, on Financial Chakras YouTube channel, and or my name Ash Shukla YouTube channel, and you'll find it there. So you can also do it with Arlene, what she went through, and you can truly truly ground yourself. So I encourage you to do that, and I think it'll be very cool because it made me feel so great, right? So I want to say thank you, Arlene, for that. I appreciate you very,
You're
very much.
well. Thanks for asking. That's not often that a podcast host asks me for that, so that's a real treat. Thank you.
You're so welcome, my friend. So let's talk about when it comes to grounding, because I know many times traditional way of grounding is what I went through. Then there is a secondary way of getting grounding is that you talked about, which is meditation we just did. But there's also ways to get grounded with using crystals, correct? Like people use crystals all the time.
Yes, yes. Some crystals are more grounding than others. I don't know if I have one of the grounding ones right next to me. I always keep a bunch of crystals right next to me
Yeah.
in my computer. Um, This is one that is really, really grounding. This is hematite, and I'm not sure what else is in it, but it's
Okay.
just an amazing stone. So if you have trouble getting grounded, you can also buy these little um, balls of hematite and put them in your pocket, or wear them as a chain, like around your like a bracelet or something like that. You can put this like hematite between your feet on the floor if you're working on your computer. I mean, so yeah, those kind of crystals are very, very grounding, and they can help you. I love working with the mineral kingdom.
Yeah.
It's like the mineral kingdom, the David kingdom, the angelics and the nature energies, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the kingdom of humanity, and the kingdom of souls. So the mineral kingdom, these crystals, which are the top of the mineral kingdom, they're like our younger brothers and sisters, and they love to work with us, and it's really easy to work with them. This is one of the ones I like to hold when I'm like doing a podcast. And
Mm.
when you sort of hold it and love it, you send it energy and it sort of wakes up and starts working with you. And so it's a mutual give and take thing. It's not a one-way street.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful experience, and it can really working with these kind of crystals. Let me see if I have some other ones that are really cool. This is one that I have some amazing friends that sell these, that this is like a really cool crystal. It's very
Wow.
loving and supportive. And, I'm not an expert could tell you all the names of them. I just sort of hold them in my left hand and go, does this resonate with me? And so yeah, they'll if you sort of squeeze them and love them, they'll start loving you back and working with them. If you pick up a crystal and it feels really gnarly, not all crystals are what you want to work with. Just put it back down and don't get it. But there's all sorts of books and information on them. But I always go with, how does this crystal feel when I pick it up? Is it some crystal that I really want to work with and I find to be heart opening and supportive?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I guess the only other thing I would share, there's so many places you can get crystals. I mean, this is beautiful. Let me see if it has some other ones. I mean, there's some really little ones too. This one, I love this one. This is a golden healer. So
Mhm.
it's a quartz crystal with like a gold kind of tone to it, but it really opens your heart, and you can put it in your pocket and carry it with you where you go. Let me see if I have any others that I. And you can also, this crystal is really interesting because it's both feminine and masculine. The feminine is more the cloudy bit, and the
Mhm.
masculine is the more the clear bit. And so this is has both the feminine and the masculine in it. So, like I can hold it here right next to my heart if I'm doing a meditation. It goes
Yeah.
up to like to the throat chakra.
Yeah.
So
So,
it's a really big topic, but I think if you're interested in it, you can just maybe go to a crystal shop and find one that you love and
yeah.
love the crystal and squeeze it and work with it, and it will help you, because the mineral kingdom, the crystals are the top of that mineral kingdom. They want to work with us. They want to help us to open our chakras and clear them and to be the clearest, brightest being that we can be on the planet,
Mhm.
because that's what the planet needs right now. So I don't know. I guess that's a
I I
foundational
love
thing
that.
I'd like to share.
Yeah, yeah, I would love that. So, I'll tell you one thing, Arlene. So, what you don't know is that in Hinduism, when we go to temple, right? In the temple, we have deities, of different avatars, and so in essence, like when the temple is opened for the first time before we open the temple, they perform a particular ritual called Murti Pratishta. Murti means, a statue, right? Pratishta means it actually we put prana, meaning the life force, and we, using sloka or different mantras and different things, like we put that in there. So when people go there to pray, right, and you feel peaceful. So, like, I'm sure you notice when you go to church or when you go to temple and different places, you feel that peace, and you feel the same peace in this stone because you added that inside of that, like, whether the the first stone you showed or the last stone you shared, right? But you place that in there. It's all in, your own energetics and what you believe, right? And let the stone speak to you. So I'll tell you an example. Like, you go to certain spots and it just creeps you out, right? Like, I we went to, in India, we went to this place called Jallianwala Bagh. So Jallianwala Bagh is where, British, back in the day, it told all these, Indians that we're gonna, do something, and they were gonna give them, like a lot of things, if you will. And they got them into this particular place, and there's only one way in and out of that place. And they literally, took them in. And so millions of people, millions of Indians went in there, right, hoping for something. And they went in there, and British government, like, literally, you know um gunned them down, like every single one, gunned them down. The
Wow.
walls were really tall, and the place. So when you walk by that place nowadays, you feel the presence of, like, you can feel. So one day, me and my wife, when we got married in '97, we decided to go by there. Like, we thought, it would be good to. There was no way we could put our foot in it, because how, like, horrifying it was, like, in terms of, it was a massacre, basically, right, that took place. And that energy, you understand when you walk into something, when you hold something, when you see something, when something is not for you energetically, your chakras, your energies are telling you, listen to it. Let me give you one tip, guys. Intuition is the hardest thing that you will listen to. Most of the times we don't listen to our intuition. And what Arlene is talking about is, when you hold the stone, your intuition is telling you, is this good for you or not good? Is this stone going to be your friend, or is it not going to be your friend? And if it feels like it's going to be your friend, it's a good idea to have the stone and hold it for yourself. So you can give prana to it, meaning life force. You can pour life force into it, and literally, let the vibrations, the frequencies of the stone, be with you 24/7, because it will absorb whatever you give it, and it will keep it for you in a safe place, in a sacred place that you feel it's yours. Okay. So that being said, my friends, I want to let you guys know that this is a very very good, like, the conversation that we are having. I could go on for hours with Arlene. Okay. And but that being said, I want to let you know that I really appreciate you guys, and I want to give you, two invitations. One, I want to give you invitation to, get to know Arlene more, first of all, and make sure you visit her website. So, Arlene, would you mind sharing your website real quick so they know where to find you?
Sure. Sure. My website is Jewel, Jewel, consultancy.com. Or you can just Google my name, Arlene Cohen Miller. I think I'm the only one out there. That's why I keep my middle name. And you'll find me. You'll find my website. You'll find all the places I'm on social media. And I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, and those of you who are listening, I will post all the links to her website and things like that into the section of this particular podcast. But more importantly, I want to also let you know, alongside with that. So I want to give you a really good gift, right? So one thing is, if you visit my website, financialchakras.com, I have, there are two things that I have on that are crucial. One, if you send me a DM me, in any of the platforms, you let me know that you heard my show, and you DM me, I will give you 30 days of free daily wealth manifestation, right? Every single day, 2 times a day, I work with your energetics. I help you create breakthroughs, and more importantly, I help you get balanced and help you celebrate successes every single day. And I do this 2 times a day, every day. Okay. So you have that from me as a complimentary gift for listening to, specifically with Arlene. I have not done this with any other podcast except for Arlene, just so you know. Okay. That's first thing. The second thing is, we talk about miracles, right? I'm doing this event called Miracle Meets in October, in the second week in October. Is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So, where we are going to do a sacred prayers and sacred, what I call Havan. And Havan is a like a fire prayer where we really let go of a lot of things and things of the nature. And we're gonna visit the second largest temple in the world. And I'm gonna create breakthroughs for you guys for one full day. So if you're interested in that, visit my website, and you'll find under the event section my, this miracle meet that I'm gonna do for 3 full days. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be great times on the road, but most importantly, it will be fantastic. You will visit the second largest temple in the world. That's right here in New Jersey, where we're gonna go. It's over 100-acre land, 170-acre land, and it has, they used uh more cement than Hoover Dam itself, right? And it got built in the record time that you can possibly imagine in the American architecture, if you will. It is, they took the stone from Italy, took it to India, hand carved it, pre-assembled it, and sent it here. And it is one of the best sites that you will ever see. So if you're interested in that, you're most welcome to join me. I would highly appreciate that. But just go to financialchakras.com for that. But most importantly, be sure to visit Arlene's website, Arlene, and find Arlene Kohan Miller, online, so you can be in connection with her. So I just want to let you guys know, I have never offered that before, and I'm offering that to you as a special thank you for listening, commenting, sharing this podcast, and I really appreciate you. And I want to say I love you very very much, my friend. I am so thankful to have you, have you listen to my podcast, to follow me, right? And I am inspired to bring you valuable content every single week. Okay. So that being said, I want to say thank you so much. Arlene, my friend, do you have anything to say to the listeners?
Just to keep on feeling the power of love and to allow love to restore the balance.
I love that. Arlene, thank you so much. Right. So with love, I want to say thank you guys so much. One second, Arlene. Okay, one second. So I want to say thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you for listening to this podcast. Thank you very very much. I'll see you in the next podcast. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being my follower. Thank you so much for commenting and helping this podcast out. I really appreciate you. And be sure to always always align your financial chakras and, you know, make sure you attract your abundance through your inner alignment. It is my message to you for today. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next podcast. Namaste and thank you.